In this lesson, we're going to look at how to multiply fractions. So it's really very simple. All we do is multiply top times top and bottom times bottom. And we make sure that we leave our answer in simplified form, which just means we reduce the fraction, but we don't necessarily change it to a mixed number. If it's larger than 1, it's okay to leave it as an improper fraction. So, as an example, let's multiply 3/7 times 2/5. So I'm going to multiply top times top and bottom times bottom. And if there were anything here, top and bottom, that we could cross out to reduce, we would do that, but there's not. So we end up with 6/35. And here's another example. 5 times 7/12. Now remember that every whole number has a denominator of 1. So we can write that in if it helps. And the whole number itself is in the numerator. If there were any top and bottom matches we could cross out, then we would. We could break 12 down, but there's no need to, because 12 would be 4 times 3, and there are no 4s or 3 factors in these top numbers. So the top is simply 5 times 7, and the bottom is simply 1 times 12, and we end up with 35/12, which again is improper, but there's no need to change it to a mixed number because there were no mixed numbers in our problem, so it's okay to leave it improper. Here's another example. 6/11 times 3/8. Now I know that 6 will break down into 2 times 3, and 8 will break down into 2 times 4. And if I do that, that will give me 2's in the top and in the bottom that can be canceled out. So let's do that. This 6 breaks down into 2 times 3. I've got a 3 here. 11 is prime, but 8 breaks down into 4 times 2. Now I know that 4 is not prime and could be broken down again, but that won't really help at all because after I cross out this 2 and this 2, there won't be any factors for the 4 to cancel out. So I'm going to cross out the 2's now. Notice that I cannot cross out the 3's because they're both in the top. And in order to cross out, I need a top-bottom match. So I'm going to end up with 3 times 3 in the top and 11 times 4 in the bottom. So 9/44. And one more example here. Let's look at 14/27 times 12/21. And the idea is to break down whatever we can in the top or the bottom to cross out any matches. So I'm going to start by breaking the 14 down into 2 times 7. And let's break the 12 down into 6 times 2. And in the denominator, let's break that down into 9 times 3. And let's break 21 down into 7 times 3. So I see here the 7's we can cross out. So let's do that. And we're not through yet because now that I look at it, 6 is 2 times 3. And if I break the 6 down, I'll have a 3 that I can use to cross out one of these 3's. So let's do that. I've got my 2, which is here, and I've broken the 6 down into 3 times 2, and then I've got my other 2, which is here. And in the bottom, I'm still going to have 9 times 3 times 3. But now that I've done that, I can cross out a top 3 with the bottom 3. And in the top, I'll get 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. See, 2 times 2 is 4. And that 4 times this 2 is 8. And in the bottom, 9 times 3 is 27. So we end up with 8/27. Okay, here is another example. Let's do 20/9 times 15/28. And let's think, what could we break down so that we could have common factors in the top and the bottom? Well, I see that 20 and 28 are both multiples of 4. And I know that 15 and 9 are both multiples of 3. So let's break those down. 20 is 4 times 5. 15 is 3 times 5. In the bottom, 9 is 3 times 3. and 28 is 7 times 4. So I see a pair of 4's that I can cancel here, also a pair of 3's. And what that leaves us is 5 times 5 in the top and 3 times 7 in the denominator. And so again, this is an improper fraction, but it's okay to leave it improper because the only time we have to make our answers into mixed numbers is if the problem contained mixed numbers. And let's do one now that does contain mixed numbers. Anytime you start out with mixed numbers, you want to change that to improper fractions first. Always remember that improper fractions are lots easier to work with than mixed numbers. Mixed numbers are very easy to visualize but very difficult to do arithmetic with. So let's work on 3 2/3 times 1 1/4. And here again you see a new type of multiplication notation. Parentheses stuck together like this mean multiplication. And there's no dot here like we had here, because the reason they didn't do that is because with the mixed number coming in two parts, the whole number and the fraction, the dot would lead to confusion sometimes. So they switched to this parentheses notation for multiplication. And we'll see that pretty frequently as we go through the semester. So let's first change both of our mixed numbers to improper fractions. So this will become 11/3. And this will become 5/4. Now look to see if anything can be broken down so that you can cancel out any top and bottom factors. And here, of course, we cannot do that. So we'll get 11 times 5 is 55. And in the bottom, 3 times 4 is 12. And now this is a simplified fraction, but I need to change it back to mixed numbers because the problem was given in mixed numbers. So let's say 12 will go into 55 4 times with 7 left over. Okay? Just a reminder to make sure we put the answer in mixed form if the problem contains mixed numbers. And let's multiply these examples. If we look at the first one, 4 times 2 is 8, and 11 times 3 is 33, and there's nothing here that could be reduced at all, so this is as good as we get. For the second one, remember that the denominator of 6 is 1, so we're going to have 6 times 3 is 18, and in the bottom, 1 times 5 is 5. And we're going to leave this as an improper fraction because the problem does not contain any mixed numbers. Okay, for the next one, I notice that 6 and 21 are both multiples of 3. So let's write those as in their factored form. 6 is 3 times 2, and then this 2 comes from here. In the bottom, this 7 comes from here, and 21 is 3 times 7. Now notice that we've got 3's in the top and the bottom. Notice that we cannot cancel out the 2's because they're both in the top. So we end up with 2 times 2 is 4, and on the bottom, 7 times 7 is 49. Now for this last example, these came in mixed number form, so we want to make sure and convert them into improper fractions before we start. 3 2/5 will become 17/5. 1 1/2 will become 3/2. Now 17 is prime, and 2 is prime, and so are 3 and 5. So there's nothing here we can cross out, so we'll just have to multiply top times top, and bottom times bottom. So 17 times 3 is 51, and 5 times 2 is 10. And normally it would be okay to leave this in improper form. However, this problem contains mixed numbers, so I'll have to change this answer back into mixed number form. 10 will go into 51 5 times with 1 left over, so it becomes 5 1/10.